Okay, I've already talked about this, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. Lapse time is the difference between the start and the finish. Time of day, hours, minutes, seconds. So that means having your wristwatch synchronized, having a backup wristwatch in case something happens to the first one. Also good to have a stopwatch going, but that's mostly, I use a stopwatch to time the feeds, so somebody feeds every half an hour. So I'll look at the stopwatch and look for the half hour and the hour. And it's even better if you can get the swimmer to start exactly on the half hour and the hour. But that's not Okay, how to do an observer log. Yeah, so Sanctionorg should provide this. If not, MSF. The observer log is defined as regular time-stamped observations of your location, water temperature, air temperature, wind, and stroke rate. Location, if you have most boats, if it's not like, Uncle John's Boston Whaling, most boats are going to have a GPS on them to navigate. So you can always get the coordinates off of the boat, usually if it's a good boat. Or get it off your phone, GPS tracker, or whatever. Just get the coordinates and write that down. It's a backup in case something happens to the GPS data, which happens sometimes. Also mention land reference points on round trip Angel Island. There's a lot of land reference points. Always mention those. So-and-so is passing Point Campbell, so-and-so passed Point Blunt. Those are good to contextualize the observations. Distance to finish. If you could, this is more of an advanced thing. If you get into some more complicated GPS tracking apps, plug in the route, and you can figure out exactly how far the swimmer has to finish. It's a good thing to do, but not essential. Yes?
In observing, are you doing nautical miles or actual miles? Because it made me think distance.
Yeah,
it's always nautical on a chart plot.
If you're using miles, use nautical miles. I use kilometers, just so there's no ambiguity. And because the kilometers are easily translated into meters, and you can say so-and-so swam 1,500 meters in the past half an hour. But yeah, nautical miles are better than statute, and always say nautical miles, not miles, otherwise you're not going to.
Right. And we just ask that people are consistent, whatever format they use. When we talk about the distance of the swim in Monterey Bay, depending on what course you're on, we refer to those distances in statute miles, direct line, straight line distance. But as far as documenting the swim, it can be much easier to use nautical miles because your boat captain and everybody else is talking in nautical miles. And you don't have to be doing conversions the whole time.
Okay, water temperature and air temperature with your thermometer. It's good to have a backup thermometer in case the first one goes in the drop. It's happened to me. Wind speed with your anemometer. Sometimes your boat pilot will have a device on the boat measuring that. That's good. Otherwise, eyeball it and try to memorize what 5 knots, 10 knots, 15 knots looks like. Stroke rate. This is not the stroke rate that your fancy watch gives you. That's cycles. What you want is arms. 1, 2, 3. Okay, count for a minute, and that's the stroke rate.
Okay. I don't know. I usually say count for the full minute. Count 15 seconds and multiply.
Count for a minute. If you take 30 if you do 30 seconds only, then you're potentially off by 2. Take 15 seconds, you're off by 2. Yep.
How often do you do that?
Whenever the swimmer feeds, like every half hour. Every hour is okay for sure.
I like to vary it, so sometimes I'll do it right after the swimmer feeds, and sometimes I'll wait 10 or 15 minutes and then do it, because a lot of times it's, Carbon Pro, it's a sugar, whatever, boom, 72 strokes. But if you wait a few minutes until they set in, then you see their true stroke rate. So down the road, when you're worried about them slowing down, the rate slowing down, you have something a little more tangible to, take a look at.
Very good point. Okay, and then as necessary, Yes.
Don't tell the crew or the swimmer, oh, I'm going to take your stroke thing down too.
So just say comments are good. And most log sheets will have a section for you to write comments. Talk about conditions. Talk about what the swimmer just fed on. Paddlers or sport swimmers coming in or going out. Wildlife encounters. And just how the swimmer is doing. Things that they say. These are all good things. Generally, please take pride in the quality of your log. This is the lasting document of the swim. Everything else is transitory. 25 years down the line, this is what's left. The CSA has logs from, I think during World War II, the early years got bombed out, but they have everything since then. And Ted, this is one of my most treasured possessions. Ted Erickson sent me a copy of John Erickson's original log from his triple English Channel crossing. And this was in 1981. It was the first triple English Channel crossing. John sadly passed away a couple years ago, but this was one of the greatest feats in the history of swimming. And you can read this log. Like CSA Observer put in all the detail. He was eating canned peaches. Just amazing stuff. So take pride in the quality of your log. Has to be legible, obviously, right? Sometimes you're on a boat, kind of hard to get it working. If it's really bad and you're not able to get a legible log, it's okay to transcribe it once you're back on land. That's okay. Yeah.
Would audio ever suffice? Like if you couldn't, like say you're taking a lot of water or pouring rain, whatever.
As long as you transcribe it later.
Augment it somehow with audio. Okay.
Yeah, I on Sarah's Champlain swim, it got really, really windy at one point. The kayak had to go out. The pontoon boat had to take shelter. And it was just the sailboat. The sailboat couldn't be a very good swimmer. So Craig Lenning and I went out on a dinghy, which is a little more maneuverable in the big waves. And it was just this little dinghy, and the water's coming over, and like there's no way the log sheets are going to happen in those conditions. So I was just like verbal on my,
Just dictating on your phone.
and then I transcribe it later. That's okay. Be flexible, but the end product has to be good. The end product is what is going to last. I've seen some really crappy logs, and it just breaks my heart. Don't be that guy.
And Evan, if there are really good logs, thank you,
What's that?
Evan. You do good logs. I was also going to say Amy's Monterey crossing. If you want to read an example of great
I've got a copy of
narrative,
it here.
great narrative, great detail of every location, the feeds, the conditions. It's like you read it and you were there, and that is really what the goal of a great observer log should be. Is you should be able to read that log and feel like you were right there on that swim. And those are just great ones that that people should read before they go to the swim.
Real quick, for swims that don't have a sanctioning organization, the documentation quality requirements are much more stringent because it's the documentation itself that is providing the evidence. If it's a sanctioned swim with a trained observer, actually, officially the CSA doesn't even release their logs. You don't have access to those unless the swimmer, kind of privately gives you one. But you trust the CSA because you know they have processes, you know the observers are trained, and so you trust it. If there's no sanction org and maybe the observer is not known, then the quality of the documentation, the extent of the documentation really matters. And so that's why for MSF swims, we require GPS tracking data, require photo and video. Narrative report is a really good thing to do. Third-party weather data, media coverage, all this kind of thing will enhance the log sheet. So this is over and above the log sheet, which will help provide evidence for swims that don't have section lines.
Evan has examples of really great logs up there on the MSF site. We also love that people trust us as an association, but we also, in the spirit of transparency, as long as it's okay with the swimmer, we publish the logs with the swim successes. So if you can go to Amy's, on Monterey Bay site and click on Kim or Amy's, anybody's swim, and you'll get a copy of the log. Any personal information that they might not want to share, it can be redacted, or we may, if they say don't share my log, we won't share it. But we're in the practice of just open transparency, share all the logs. And the ones for Kim and Patty, obviously, link back to NSF because they were the ones that sanctioned this one. That's just a copy of the Buford wind scale. Okay. You can look this stuff up on the internet, but there's all sorts of ways to educate yourself on, how to identify conditions. What does 10 knot winds look like? What does 5 knots look like? How do you translate? For Monterey Bay, we don't really care whether you're using knots or miles per hour or Buford scale, as long as you're consistent. Just pick one, and then we'll put that in the picture.
So you're probably never going to use anything below here.
Yeah.
Unless you're
it's not wonderful. Force 5 is kind of like right on the borderline of what most people can deal with. In fact, a lot of people can't swim at force 5.
As a swimmer, you're always thinking it's much windier than it is. I mean, I've been at altitude and think, oh God, I'm blowing 20 knots or whatever, and then the observer log says it was 7 knots or something. But, it always feels different, right, when you're the guy in the water.
And the picture never, ever.
Never.
How bad it was.
Video pictures never.
Unless you see the swimmer in the air.
Or I see the kayaker going down the way. Yeah.
So, any of the experienced observers in this room have anything to add about any of that? Yeah.
If you're on a rotation and it's your time to sleep, sleep.
Yes.
Sounds silly? It's maybe a gorgeous day out there and you're all excited and you're wrapped up in it, but if you're on it, just take that nap because you're going to need it between, what was it, Kim, you're saying, between 2 and 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not your time. Maybe it's between 7 and 8, whatever. Take your naps.
Absolutely.
Good point.
Yeah, great point.